We got to get to a great interview here. Brent Gardner, you've heard him here before. He's the guy who's on Capitol Hill, who's sort of bird dogging where everything is at with the big, beautiful bill. He's going to give us an update on all of that. One of our favorite reoccurring guests here on the Ruthless Variety program, somebody who gives us a little under the hood action of what's happening on Capitol Hill, Brent Gardner, AFP. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Well, you know, I feel like I'm a little less stressed than you are.
You
know, you're working everything these days.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. But I think reason to be optimistic.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So, look, it's no secret to our audience. You all are extremely interested in the big, beautiful bill.
Extremely.
And you've got this big grassroots network. Everybody's sort of provided input on a whole bunch of different things that they're interested in doing. Not surprisingly, one big, beautiful bill. Mm-hmm. If it's beautiful, it includes a lot of that stuff, which is what you're following up on.
Yeah.
Where
excited.
are we at?
Well, we got good stuff going on, and we got some work to still do. And I think that's kind of how we see it. And the good news is everyone's working on the work left to do, and they feel a sense of urgency, which is great because the folks that we're talking to across the country have that same sense of urgency. Yeah. They feel like they voted last November to send folks here to get it done. And they keep sending that message. You know, we've had two different great activations in critical weekends. The first one, 92,000 voters contacted the weekend where the question of the top marginal rate kind of came into question.
I remember that.
We were very animated.
We had some thoughts.
Yeah. So did we, and so did voters. This last weekend, we did another day of action. 300,000 voters contacted. Wow. So the AFP faithful are out in force, and they're helping people connect with their members.
And when you're talking about a day of action, I think everybody needs to understand that what's happened in the Midwest over the last 3 weeks, either it is a monsoon or it is a 98-degree day, and you have people hitting doors every single one of those days.
Yeah, you talk about the Midwest. You talk about Arizona in August. You talk about Dallas.
It's a dry heat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, listen, I know that well. It melted all the glue in my Oldsmobile Bravada back in 1998.
But listen, these folks, they're powered by passion. At the end of the day, they care deeply about this country and getting this job done. And that's why you will see them regardless of weather, regardless of other priorities. You'll see them do the work that has to be done, and they expect their members of Congress and the president to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you build a grassroots network. People listen to what all the candidates are saying. They get involved because they care about something, and they obviously imagine that people are going to try to deliver upon it. This is the signature, obviously, of everything Republicans have been talking about for a long period of time. It's the cornerstone of the Trump agenda. Includes the tax relief component, includes all these important border security issues, other issues. I got to imagine that you've got a network of people who are concerned about a lot of different things.
Yeah, 100%. And most of them have something they care about in this bill. Yeah. And, you know, usually we talk about this as like the tax reform bill or continuation of TCJ. Yeah. As you point out, it's so much more than that. Yeah. It's got so many of the president's second term, agenda items that ultimately this is the biggest opportunity to take a step forward for what people were promised last year. And so people are really connected to that. They know how important it is, and they're working hard to see it get done.
Yeah. It funds a border wall. Right? I mean, this will actually finish the border wall that he started in his first term.
Yeah. I mean, look, the question of the challenge of immigration that Joe Biden abandoned the American people on has some answers in this bill. People can start to see some work on that, and we can finally get to work fixing, not just the challenge of people coming across the border, but the broken immigration system that we have in this country.
Yeah, so you mentioned the day of action around when they were having a negotiation in the House, and you had actual Republicans out there kind of negotiating with themselves about maybe we'll raise, taxes on the highest rate. And that's how we're going to pay for tax cuts, which is sort of a crazy thing if you're a conservative in this country. As you can tell, it animated me quite a lot.
We heard you.
Very upset.
But as we look to the Senate passage of this reconciliation bill, like what are the other little traps and pitfalls that you're looking out for at AFP?
Yeah, we got a few that are still left out there. I mentioned there's still work to be done. I mean, look, the question of SALT is a real one. And I think the Senate has got a strong perspective. Look, there are no Republican senators from blue states.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Susan Collins.
I will leave that entirely alone at the moment.
Yeah, right.
We need votes for this week. But listen, I think from our perspective, the opportunity is there to clear things like SALT. I think the question that Republicans have to ask themselves is, Why did they let Democrats get ahead of them on Medicaid messaging? You know, at the end of the day, this is waste, fraud, and abuse that we're taking care of. There's opportunities to really go out there and take these things that are looking like issues here in the closing hours, make them winning issues. Talk to the American people about what this means for them, what it means for our country's future. And I think once we square some of those things from a policy perspective, we need to have a real conversation about standing behind the things that we care about.
Right.
Yeah. And as you're on the Hill, I mean, look, hey, we've done all this. We spent an inordinate amount of time under the dome trying to pilot these things. And there's a couple of scenarios that you want to try to avoid with something this grandiose in its ambitions. One is like a ping pong back and forth, right? Where the Senate has a view, the House has a view. You keep passing things back and forth that sort of make changes at the margin, but never can get across both legislative bodies. The other one is like you do this conference committee that can last for months. So it seems to me, from the outside looking in, but you tell me because you're in the middle of all of this, seems to me what they're trying to do is sort of pre-conference or pre-negotiate something that is simultaneously going to pass the Senate and the House, and they don't know it until they see it, and when they get it, they're going to go quickly to make sure that they've got the votes to get it done.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean, you heard talk this morning about keeping everyone here until this thing gets done. I think that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked at the beginning of this that there were three major bad things that could happen here. One, no bill. Largest tax increase in American history. Yep. 2, bad bill, something that doesn't actually connect with people, that doesn't do what people wanted. And then 3 is late bill. And that's what we start to worry about when we talk about things like ping-ponging or conference committees. Yep. In 2017, the bill came too late for the economic impact to really hit and for people to get connected to it. And so, unfortunately, it left people with a different taste in their mouth than it will be if they get it done now. We'll have 3/4 of opportunity for economic growth. We'll have an opportunity for a messaging on the economy and the other priorities that the president can stand on and that he can stand next to members of Congress on and get them reelected in the midterms, push back against those traditional trends. And I think that's why it's so critically important. I think people get it this time.
And job creators and small businesses around the country are like clamoring for this. Get it done, because they want to be able to plan out like what is it going to look like here into the future, and like how does that impact my business? I can't make investments, I can't grow jobs and things like that if I don't know.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The permanent part of this, the permanency also means that we're not coming back and having this fight 4 or 5 years from now. So that's a really great thing. So I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been divergent perspectives on a whole bunch of different pieces. The permanent thing, I totally agree with you. Yeah. That at least on a business planning standpoint, for all the people who are employed by small businesses across this country, it's important to have a 5 and 10 year outlook. You got to plan for these things. You got to inventory things. You got to make sure that your business reflects the tax environment that they're in. By just setting it down and saying this is what the law of the land is, makes a difference, right? I mean,
that's what we hear all the time. It frees up the opportunity for people to engage in the type of capital investment that they need to have growth in this country. And let's be real about this. We're not in a position where we're bending our debt and deficit curve significantly here. We need to grow. And to do that, we need great tax policy to do it. And this gives us a great opportunity to have certainty, which is something that the market has been crying for, the American people have been crying for, and Congress and the president can deliver on as soon as next week.
Tons of media outlets out there, tons of different members out there talking about the bill, and everybody in our audience is always wanting to know, who else should I be listening to? Who should I be watching for if I want to learn the most in a limited amount of time that I have? And we know Mark Wayne Mullen, very good friend of the program, is working back and forth between the House, where he was for a long time, on SALT issue in particular, and the Senate, where Mark Wayne is now. I wonder if there are any other members that you think our audience should be watching in this process to sort of get the real news?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of folks at different times during this have counted out Speaker Johnson, but I think he's been right more often than not, and he's been able to pull off miracles that I think people would have said he wouldn't have been able to do. I think he's definitely a person to watch, and he has a real beat on, I think, where that chamber's at. I'd add Steve Scalise to that message. I think he's also someone who, when he's talking, he's not just giving you a beat on where the chamber is, but helping to lead them to where they need to be. And I think John Thune's another one, right? I mean, look, this is his first run kind of through something at this scale. And so far, I think the partnership that we've seen between the Senate and the House is going to be, to your point, that's going to define success or failure in the near term on being able to get this done quickly. Those are 3 big ones that I would look to. But listen, the great thing about X and the job that Elon did kind of opening that up is we can hear from all of them. We can take a real-time snapshot of where members of Congress are. And so I'd pay attention to all of them, the good ones and the bad ones. Remember the ones who are saying the right thing and never forget the ones who are saying the wrong thing, because we'll see them again next year.
That's a good point.
I like it.
So, look, ultimately, this is going to come down to a binary choice. I mean, we're struggling with details at this point that may impact certain constituencies more than others. And you mentioned the blue state, red state phenomenon. This is a Republican-only exercise, right? There's no Democrat that's interested basically in keeping your tax rates the same as they were last year. So
we'll keep an eye on John Fetterman. We'll see what
Is that right? Do you think?
I don't know, but I won't count him out yet.
Really?
Yeah, I'll make this appeal. This is a good opportunity for you to do the right things.
I mean, it really is. But I didn't even think
statement.
that was a possibility.
We'll see.
Huh. Well, he's kept his cards open.
The board's not live, so we'll see what happens.
If he votes for it, I will personally hand deliver one of those senator sweatshirts that we have in the merch store.
Yeah. I mean, he deserves it.
That's a promise. That's a promise, sir.
That is a promise. We will show up, unquestionably. But if you're looking at, look, they're struggling over Medicaid. They're struggling over SALT. They've got a couple of different things that they want to get done. You can see, to your point, Speaker Johnson, anytime he thinks that he is getting into a situation that compromises the delicate negotiation that he needed to get things through the House with the, 2-seat, 3-seat majority. Like, he's speaking up, and that's being a part. And then you see the White House also participating in this, which is important. Is this timeline by 4th of July? I mean, is this a realistic situation from your perspective?
Aim small, miss small. I think it's a great target for us to be able to focus on. I think if things lined up, it's entirely possible to do that. I think what you talked about, though, about that need to kind of either officially or unofficially pre-conference what this looks like, that's the way that you'd be able to catch that kind of velocity. I know that there is big-time demand from the president. There's huge demand from people out in communities that want to see this be able to happen. And there's a lot of people who are really dedicated in Congress, in both chambers, that want to get this done. And I would love to be able to celebrate on the 4th of July getting this there. So I think it's possible. And I think we just got to keep working and run through the tape.
What's the thing that you guys are most excited about? I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, so I hate to just pin you down on one. But is there something that just stands out?
On the bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately this is a lawmaking exercise. I don't want to limit it to one issue. This was a chance where Republicans said, let's take a swath of the things that we can do and show Republicans can get it done.
Yeah.
There's opportunity for great disappointment if they don't do it. But the opportunity to be able to demonstrate what is step one in a process where Republicans can show the ability to lead on issues that are critical and not only just pass this bill, but come back with what's next and say on to the next. I think that's a big deal. For people to see that Republicans can do it, that's what I'm excited
Well, so
about.
I'd like to talk about that for a second. And we had Speaker Johnson in recently, and he sort of laid that all out. And for a lot of our listeners and viewers, that was the first time they ever heard it. It's like big, beautiful bill is step one. And then you've got a rescissions package and maybe another one. Then there's the appropriations process where you really figure out the spending stuff. And then you might do one or two more reconciliation bills.
Yeah, we were in a meeting with him just a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of folks were talking about this bill. And he said, well, maybe that'll be in the next package. And a lot of people kind of perked up. People are
that's kind of fun.
People are very focused on this bill, as they should be. But the idea that this is phase one and we have a real intent to go further and to do more, I think that's the kind of thing that everyone should get excited about.
No question. Look, this one locks down the economic growth component, the stuff that we saw in 2017 that allowed the economy to expand. Obviously, we had COVID and everything else that inhibited some of that, although we bounced back despite Joe Biden and all the policies that administration had. And so this is a reset the dial from the fundamentals. And then, as you were saying, step 2, step 3, try to get our finances in order a little bit. And I wonder, as you're watching this debate and you're sort of taking inventory of what people are saying, I imagine you guys are taking notes, right? Because you got on the other side of the house, you got your big grassroots organization, people who are involved in things like campaigns and elections, not with your current hat on, but like you're communicating to your members what you're hearing and seeing, right?
100%. I mean, listen, we're a policy-first organization, and Americans for Prosperity Action is policy-first when it comes to how they think about elections.
Yeah.
So the question of where we're going to be and where AFPA is going to be in the coming year, it's based on the decisions that members take as far as how they're going to make their votes go. And so,
when guys show up and they're like, yeah, well, maybe we can raise taxes and increase the entitlement state. And, we're budget conscious, so we're concerned about inhibiting the growth of our government. in
Listen,
any possible way. I imagine that these are things that you're sort of like just taking out.
we don't just take notes, we issue scores.
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, the opportunity to help people understand and evaluate who their elected officials are today and who they could be tomorrow, that's a big part of what we do.
I love it.
Hold them accountable, Brent Gardner.
We're going to do it.
Do it. And I think they're going to get this done. I think you and your team have done terrific work. A lot of terrific work being done on the Hill, but we can't afford to have an economy without it. I mean, this is the basis. This is the first step in getting a conservative economy that grows, that does the things that we need for people across this country.
You're as right today as you've been the whole time as you guys have been talking about it. So
You're the man. You've been a great partner in all of this. Keep us up to date and tell us, as you're hearing stuff on the Hill, if you hear something concerning,
Yeah.
come to the Ruthless Friday
wanna
program.
know.
Yeah,
We'll
let
let
us
you know.
know. We love being angry.
I mean, it
Not
turns
just what, but who.
Yeah.
we'll do that too.
Yeah, it turns out they all listen. Some of them hate listen,
That's okay.
but they listen.
That's okay.
And so you let us know.
We'll do that.
Brent, thank you so much for stopping in.
Thanks, guys.